A few years ago, I heard a very bad joke about a fellow who was flying an airplane, and unfortunately the engine quit. Fortunately, he had a parachute and he jumped out. Unfortunately, the parachute didn't open and all of that. And I never thought it was a particularly funny joke, but I recently went through a similar experience with this disk drive. This drive used to be in this Lenovo computer that you see right there, and that's the computer that I've been using to do all of my YouTube videos and so on. Well, you guessed it, the drive died, unfortunately. Fortunately, I had a backup. Unfortunately, I had upgraded that computer from Windows 7 to Windows 10, and I learned when I started calling the various computer stores around here that it turns out that they can either restore Win 7, in which case you cannot then restore the rest of the system. In other words, you get a bare bones operating system, or you can restore or install Windows 10, but then you can't copy the images because of some technical problems that apparently have to do with licensing from Microsoft. So at any rate, I've been fighting to try to recover from that, and I am pleased to report that I have purchased a new Hewlett-Packard Windows 10 computer, and I've reloaded a bunch of the software onto that. Unfortunately, one of the pieces of software I could not reload is CorelDRAW. It's a pretty old version of CorelDRAW that I was using, partly because I like it better than some of the newer stuff, and partly because, being Scottish, I'm cheap. But that has caused some problems because a viewer had asked if I could send him a PDF of this experiment, which I used as a test bed for comparing logic analyzers. What this is a couple of analog devices converters. This is a to D converter, the AD670. This is the D to A converter, the AD557. And he wanted a PDF of this page. I think I interpret that's what it said. He just said, please send me a PDF of the schematic, or words to that effect. Unfortunately, without CorelDRAW, I don't have an easy way to do PDFs, and now might be a good time for me to plead the Fifth Amendment, because I'm not a real experienced YouTube user. I haven't even figured out how to put in custom thumbnails, but nonetheless, I would like to accommodate him, but unfortunately I couldn't find any place on YouTube where you can upload a PDF file that will be generally available. And I talked to a couple of the people in the local computer stores, and they said, boy, you don't want to get into the business of emailing everybody a PDF who asks for it, so if you can't post it somewhere where they can get to it, just best to stay away from that. So right now what I'm trying to do is to figure out what I want to do about CorelDRAW. In the meantime, if somebody has some suggestions about how you can post a PDF file on YouTube, I would appreciate that. I still can't create a PDF file, so I thought maybe in lieu of that I might give the viewer a little bit of an idea of what's going on here, and he probably can construct his own schematic. You can download the schematic or the data sheet for the AD670. Obviously, you can also download the 74HC374 from like TI, and analog devices also the data sheet from the AD557. And then all you're doing is you're connecting the 7s together, the 6s together, and so on. So D7 to D7, Q7 to D7, and so on, right on down. The only thing tricky about this is, for one thing, this schematic is wrong. Pin 19 is not grounded. If you ground pin 19, it won't work. The second thing is you don't need all of these LEDs. If you're using a logic analyzer to look at these lines, these are just intended for somebody who doesn't have a logic analyzer so they can see the static level of the lines. So all of this circuitry can be eliminated. And therefore, the only thing you really need to build is this little pulsar, which is a capacitively coupled transistor stage using a 3904. So I hope that I've stayed on the schematic long enough for anybody who wants to duplicate it to do so either by pausing the YouTube video or whatever. The purpose of this circuit is simply to provide a read-write pulse instead of a steady level. It basically pulses on the edge of the clock. Otherwise, the clock is just distributed as a DC signal to the chip select and the clock of the 74. So once again, I hope that helps a bit. The second thing that occurred to me was, well, why not suggest that he buy a copy of this manual online? After all, I bought this a couple of years ago, and I think I paid about $6 for it at the time, and I got it from a place that offered free shipping, and anyway. So I went online looking for this, and what did I discover? The cheapest copy of this available now is over $125 used, and the next cheapest copy is over $200. So obviously that's not a very good solution. It turns out that Pearson, the publishers of this, have discontinued it, but there are a few people online who are very proud of their copies and are willing to part with it for lots of money. Back to the fortunately, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the experiment that I was showing, I can only find in the 9th edition. Now, there are earlier editions of this that are available for very few dollars, a few $4, $5, $6 with shipping included. Unfortunately, I know that the experiment I'm talking about is not in the 7th edition. I do not have a copy of the 8th edition. It is in the 9th edition. So for those of you that want to look for this, if you want that experiment, don't buy a 7th edition or earlier. Here is the ISBN number, and I'll read it for those that might have trouble seeing the screen. It's the 13-digit ISBN is 973-013-156855-6. The 10-digit ISBN is the same, 013156855, but the last digit is -8 instead of -6. So once again, for those of you that might want to look for a copy of this online, those are the ISBN numbers you should make sure you get. Try to make sure it's at least the 9th edition. This book was published in 2008. There are a lot of 2002 and 2005 editions out there. I don't know if those will work. So anyway, I hope this will be helpful. I'm going to title this video Disaster Update, and maybe it'll explain to everybody why I've kind of been silent for the last couple of weeks on YouTube and haven't been able to get my email and everything. But I'm now back up, and hopefully as soon as I can find a replacement for CorelDRAW, I will. By the way, the problem is it just won't load in Windows 10. It just rejects it out of hand. So then I'll be back in business, and then if somebody can tell me how to post a PDF on YouTube, well, maybe I can start responding to requests like the one that I was unable to respond to. Well, once again, look forward to seeing you in a future video, and I hope this hasn't been boringly long or that I haven't piqued your interest for that joke. It's not a very good joke.